Good afternoon, friends and comrades. I'm going to be doing a video talking about current political matters. It's my first political video for a while as I've been focused on music and other things. There's a lot of talk of if the Democrats win the midterms, that somehow Biden will magically codify Roe. It says Roe versus Wade was overturned recently by the Supreme Court. The Democrats have had a half a century to codify. Half a century to fight their political squabbles with the Republicans since that was passed by the Supreme Court in order to codify, and haven't done it. And just since this was overturned, let me look at the exact figure. I believe, yes, they've raised $80 million during a crisis and a pandemic. $80 million just since this was overturned a couple weeks ago. $80 million in extra donations. While they continue to send money abroad, they vote for that as well, not just the Republicans. They've used this as a ploy the past half century for fundraising. Have never used their power to codify, which would guarantee it into law, the right to abortion, to protect women's rights, as they do in other civilized countries in the world. This proves the farce of our so-called two-party system, which Chris Hedges said recently on Savvy's show is an illusion. I don't recall if he used those exact words, but certainly that's what he was expressing. And even back in Orwell's time, he called the democracy that the British citizens had an illusion. Things are more like 1984 now than they were then, what he was predicting. The corporatization of society, the indoctrination of society, in particular by the corporate press, in cahoots with the government, especially here in the U.S. corporate empire. It's why my book, I decided to finish it and release it when I did. The Diplomat. This is the case of Alex Saab that few Americans know about. The lawlessness of both parties. Trump capturing and torturing Alex Saab, Ambassador Saab, on Cape Verde Island. Biden extraditing him illegally, kidnapping him essentially, in the second kidnapping, bring him to Miami. For what? For defying unilateral, illegal according to the UN, U.S. sanctions, which is economic terrorism, which has killed a minimal of 100,000 Venezuelan people. Depriving people of their cancer medication, depriving people of food and medicine, like a medieval siege, because they're voting away the U.S. doesn't like. And I know how they vote. I was an election observer late last year in Venezuela. That's mentioned in the book as well. And that book can be found on Amazon under my pen name, Al R. Suarez. I'll make sure to put a link to it in the description of this video. But the book describes inside knowledge that I have, having gone to Venezuela, have attended the arraignment and the hearing of Alex Saab. This is a case has little interest. Even the advocates of Alex Saab at his hearing, when I was there last in Miami, I was the only one inside the courtroom. The others decided to speculate what happened inside and protest. It's important to be there and see what actually happens for those moments in history. But not being critical to them, they found it more important to be protest outside in front of the cameras. The point is, this book is meant to counter the indoctrination that I just mentioned. The lawlessness, the lack of respect for diplomatic protection, the continual support while we're being bankrupt for neo-Nazi groups in Ukraine, the Nazi ban on Congress, arming and funding Nazis, has been lifted shortly after 2014 with the U.S. orchestrated fascist coup in Kiev in Ukraine. Since then, we've provoked the Russians with the bombardment of the eastern provinces of Ukraine, where there's abundance of lithium, by the way, Elon Musk can be involved there, like he was with Bolivia. They continually, and as Chomsky said recently, call it an unprovoked attack. The Russian invasion of Ukraine. It is an invasion, it's not a liberation. Although it's much more complex than what's portrayed. And Chomsky said, of course it is provoked. That's why they keep calling it an unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. That's how the propaganda and the indoctrination works. So thank you, friends and comrades. Let's continue to strive to truth, let's strive for justice, let's strive for a better world.